12 months ago, the most destructive storm to ever hit Florida's Gulf Coast made landfall just north of Sanibel and Captiva Islands. And in this video, we're going to show you what the islands are like 1 year later.
While there is still plenty of devastation to be seen all up and down these islands, there has also been a lot of progress. So we're going to be taking you on a tour of the islands, going to some of the businesses that have reopened, and of course, taking you to those beautiful beaches. But first, we have to pick up our ride. We spent the first half of our day on Sanibel cruising the island in style in this moke from the Moke and Cabana Club. We'll tell you a little more about this moke and how you can rent one later in this video, but for now, we've got a beach to take you to. And what better beach to start the day on than the most famous one on Sanibel Island? Named after the iconic 140-year-old lighthouse that stands on the far east point of the island, the Lighthouse Beach Park was closed for nearly 9 months after Ian. While some signs of the hurricane remain and the fishing pier remains closed, this park was still quite beautiful.
We're so happy to get out here to explore Lighthouse Beach Park because when we visited Sanibel 4 months ago, it had not yet reopened. Now, obviously, there is still a little bit of work to be done, but overall, it's still a really beautiful beach.
This beach is another great option for shelling. I think most of the people that are here today are looking for shells. Skylar's gonna go out and check out the water. I'm not quite ready to get wet today. I'll probably get in at one of the other beaches we stop by later. It does look nice here. The water is very clear.
Now, just like Fort Myers Beach a couple of days ago, the water here is really calm and also really clear, so you can really spot a lot of stuff on the ocean floor.
If you're planning on visiting this beach for yourself, we do want to mention that parking is $5 per hour and can be paid using your cell phone and a credit card. During our visit, the restroom facilities were still out of order, but they did have porta potties with hand washing stations as well as rinse-off stations. After a morning on the beach, we were starting to build up an appetite for lunch, and having not yet had our morning coffee, we decided to find a spot where we could get both. That took us back to the Moke and around 4 miles to the west, where at 2330 Palm Ridge Road, you'll find the Sanibel Deli and Coffee Factory. We had attempted to visit this spot during our trip to Sanibel 4 months prior, but found it to be closed on Sundays. If you'd like to see our experience on Sanibel and Captiva just 8 months after Ian, be sure to check out that video next. But for now, let's get some food and coffee. We were happy to find that the Sanibel Deli had exactly what we were looking for, a wide selection of food and coffee options, plus a good sense of humor. We found the deli to be full of character and quirky decor, which we enjoyed while waiting on our order. We both ordered iced coffees, which really hit the spot on this hot September day, so much so that we both drank them so fast that we completely forgot to film them. But thankfully, we didn't forget to film our food order, which included a roast beef sandwich and a Reuben. Since each sandwich looked amazing, we decided to share, and we sure are glad that we did, as both sandwiches tasted just as good as they looked. While it was very tough to choose a favorite, I had to go with the Reuben, while the roast beef was the not-so-clear winner for Skylar.
For me, it's like a tie.
After working tirelessly to reopen just over 2 months after Ian, Sanibel Deli and Coffee Factory is now open 6 days a week. Now refueled from our delicious lunch and coffee, it was time for some more exploring, and we gotta thank the Moke and Cabana Club for letting us do it in one of their all-electric open-air mokes. And while we show you some of the sights that we enjoyed on our cruise around Sanibel, we're gonna tell you a little more about the Moke and Cabana Club. While based out of Sanibel Island, the Moke and Cabana Club actually delivers its mokes directly to you. So whether you're staying on Sanibel, Captiva, or Fort Myers Beach, or even as far north as Boca Grande, or as far south as Marco Island, you too can enjoy your island vacation in one of these.
One thing I really love about this moke is that it tops out at around 35 miles per hour, which also happens to be the speed limit of the main road that runs up and down these islands. So when you're on this main road, you don't have to pay that much attention to your speed. You can just put the pedal to the metal and go.
Now, if you have a bit larger of a group and need to haul more than 4, the Moke and Cabana Club also rents 6-seater golf carts, which just like the Mokes, are 100% street legal.
I really like that these are completely open air, even on a hot 90-degree day like today. As long as you keep moving, it's comfortable.
These moats also have a range of around 40 miles, which is far enough to allow you to drive all the way up Sanibel and Captiva and all the way back.
Once you arrive at your beach spot, you can also have a cabana and beach chair package delivered to you right on the beach. And if you're a bit more adventurous, you can try out one of their electric jet boards too, which allows you to surf at up to 30 miles per hour, even on a day of calm Gulf waters like this one. Getting back to the mokes, they do come in several colors and with removable tops, and if you need to drive further than the 40-mile range, each moke can easily be recharged in just 4 hours on a standard 110-volt outlet. Now, due to the current lack of lodging options on Sanibel and Captiva, you may want to stay on Fort Myers Beach like we did, which leads us to one more great perk about renting from the Moke and Cabana Club, and that is that you can save $100 on your Moke and Cabana rental if you stay at a Sun Palace vacation property. During our 4 days of exploring Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel, and Captiva, we stayed in one of Sun Palace's amazing rental properties on Fort Myers Beach. And to see a full tour of that property, as well as our adventures exploring Fort Myers Beach 1 year after Ian, be sure to check out that video after this one. And if you want to rent a moke, golf cart, cabana, or jetboard for your next Southwest Florida beach vacation, be sure to visit mokecabana.com or call 239-722-MOKE. Now that you know all about our ride and how to rent one of your own, it's about time to check out another beach. But first, we had a couple more quick stops to make. The first of which took us to 1159 Causeway Boulevard, where you'll find the Sanibel and Captiva Islands Chamber of Commerce. If you're new to the islands, we'd recommend this be your very first stop, as it's a great place to grab maps, pamphlets, menus, and all sorts of information about the islands. And for the time being, it's also where you can find In My Heart of Hearts, a 6-foot heart-shaped sculpture covered in thousands of shells, most coming directly from the islands. So whether you're visiting Sanibel, Captiva, or both, be sure to stop by to check out this sculpture, and don't forget to say hi to Anne. Our second beach stop of the day would take us just over 3 miles southwest to Gulfside City Beach Park, but along the way we'd have to make another quick detour to a place that would soon be celebrating a very big occasion.
So we wanted to briefly stop by Sanibel Island Beach Resort because we found out when we visited the Chamber of Commerce that it is reopening tomorrow. And this is a big deal for the island because this is the first resort to reopen after Ian that had to go through major reconstruction.
As we drove down Middle Gulf Drive on our way to Gulfside City Beach Park, many of the beachfront hotels and condos appeared to be under renovation, but overall, we found this area to be much prettier than when we visited 4 months earlier. The road to Gulfside City Beach Park was curvy and scenic, and like so many other roads on Sanibel, had a concrete bike trail running beside it. And while we still haven't had a chance to enjoy this beautiful island by bike, we did get a chance to ride our e-bikes around Captiva just 1 day later. Back on Sanibel, the paved road had ended and we were beginning to wonder if we made a wrong turn, but we soon came upon a nearly empty parking lot and a sign reading Gulfside City Beach Park.
Just like the Lighthouse Beach, parking here is $5 an hour, and it is easy to pay on your phone.
We found this park to offer working restroom facilities, rinse-off stations, and several grilling and picnic areas. And based on how empty the parking lot was, we were hopeful that we'd find an empty beach as well.
So we are parked here, and this is the little shell path that runs parallel to the beach, and there are multiple beach accesses, but it looks like you have to walk a little ways. And over here identifies the different shells that people are looking for.
Overall, we found ourselves to be really impressed with the condition of this park, which reopened back on March 6th, just over 5 months after Ian.
You can see in the distance that it is raining over that way. Somehow we have been super lucky today and have not got caught in the rain.
Also there, there, and over there, and over there.
So it's raining all around us, you're saying?
Not here.
Although it seemed almost inevitable that we'd get poured on sooner or later, it wasn't going to stop us from venturing out onto this beach. And while the skies were quite cloudy, the water was calm and the beach was gorgeous, and as we'd hoped for, it was also nearly completely empty.
So the birds out here on this beach clearly outnumber the people, but that probably is because it's during the middle of the week and it's pretty clear that a storm is rolling in. So I don't know if we have a lot of time out here.
scared all the birds.
Here's another view of all the rain, like over there, 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 and so far we are dry.
So behind me is one of probably hundreds of beachfront hotels and condos you'll find here on Sanibel Island. And as Jamie mentioned earlier, there is one that's scheduled to reopen tomorrow, but it sounds like the majority of them won't be reopening until at least well into 2024.
Now this is another beach that is great for shelling, but if you're somebody looking for that really soft sand, this might not be the best beach for you. So I did spot a manatee out there, but unfortunately I wasn't recording and he is heading that way, so we're not going to be able to show him to you.
So before these storms roll in here on Gulfside City Beach, we do want to quickly talk about the changes that we've seen here on Sanibel from when we visited 4 months earlier. Now the biggest change we've noticed is just how much greener everything is. Over the last 4 months we have gone through Florida's rainy season, which has really just made everything green up and makes the island resemble much more of the Sanibel that you all remember prior to Ian. As far as the amount of businesses open on the island, we haven't seen a whole lot of progress there, although there are a few spots here and there that are open now that weren't open 4 months ago. And as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to the beachfront hotels and resorts that are actually open and accepting customers, there hasn't been much progress made at all. But we have noticed a lot more construction crews working on the hotels and resorts, which is definitely a good sign. Unfortunately, there are only so many contractors out here on these islands to get these properties back into shape. And as you all know, insurance companies can move extremely slow, which is why progress has been so slow out here on Sanibel up to this point.
So the island clearly has a long way to go, but there's still plenty of things to do and see. We have not had any trouble filling our day today, and I'm pretty sure we're not going to have any trouble tomorrow either whenever we go over to Captiva. But we do have a few more places to take you to here on Sanibel before we call it a night.
After a couple hours on the beautiful Gulfside City Beach, we had somehow managed to stay dry, and we were off to hit the road to our next destination. And that would lead us around 4 miles northwest, where at 975 Rabbit Road, you'll find Rosalita's.
We made it to Rosalita's, which was actually supposed to be our lunch spot, but like usual, we spent way too much time at the beach, so our breakfast spot turned into our lunch spot. But we did still want to check out this place, so we're gonna pop in for a quick drink and snack before we head to dinner.
New to Sanibel Island since March of 2023, we found this Tex-Mex restaurant to offer a ton of space, a great atmosphere, and an impressive variety of food and drink options. But the one thing we found most impressive about Rosalita's had to be this plate of freshly prepared guac, which was creamy, huge, and amazing. And speaking of amazing, Skylar decided to splurge for this 20-ounce blueberry margarita, which was definitely one of the most expensive drinks he'd ever ordered, but also one of the best.
So we're really glad we decided to stop by Rosalita's because that guac was awesome. I also got to try my first ever blueberry margarita, and although it was a little bit pricey, it was also really good and really strong. So Jamie's definitely going to be driving us to our dinner spot.
Thankfully, the drive to dinner was a short one, as we could not wait to finally eat some Cajun food at MudBugs. We made our way up to the second story of the restaurant, which we found to offer a ton of space and a wonderful New Orleans-style vibe. We especially loved this second floor outdoor dining area, which is where we would have definitely dined on a slightly cooler and less buggy evening. But the atmosphere inside was pretty great in its own right, and we were really feeling these stained glass windows.
Now this place has quite a bit to choose from, including something called swamp pasta. You can get gator, crawfish, and frog legs. Skylar really did want to try it, but he also had another dish he wanted to try. All right, Skylar, what did you order?
I got a local IPA. I already forgot what it's called, but it is very good. And I also ordered the etouffee, which is one of my favorite dishes. I'm really not hungry, but I'm probably still going to eat it all. All right, what did you order?
Well, I had a little too much of the chips and salsa and guacamole at the last place, so I just went with an appetizer, the shrimp cargo. I'm really excited to try it.
So it's like escargot, but with shrimp?
I think so.
The shrimp cargo came out covered in melted cheese, while the etouffee arrived loaded with crawfish. And based on first impressions, we were both pretty impressed.
If this tastes half as good as it smells, I'm going to be really happy.
And just in case you can't tell from the video, he was happy.
So I had etouffee a few years ago in New Orleans, and it was like the best thing I ever had. I've had it a couple times in Florida since then. It's been really good, but never that good. But this one tastes just like the one I had in New Orleans. It's awesome.
All right, so Skylar is saying we're gonna have to come back to Sanibel just to get this dish again, so I have to try it.
Best thing you've ever had?
It is very flavorful, and I do like it, but Skylar likes crawfish a lot more than I do.
Oh, true.
But I do agree that it's very good. Oh, look at that. This is so not healthy.
Definitely not healthy, but it looks delicious.
Oh yeah.
So I already know this is going to be amazing because it's literally shrimp covered in butter and cheese, but I'm going to try it anyway.
Buttery goodness for sure. Cheesy buttery goodness.
Yes.
While we certainly did not leave any room for dessert, it didn't stop us from visiting our last Sanibel spot anyway. And if you know me well, you probably already guessed that this stop was for ice cream, or actually frozen custard, which the Shack has been serving on Sanibel since May of 2021. And while the Shack did sustain extensive damage from Ian, it was one of the first businesses on the island to reopen just a couple of months after the storm. After trying a few different samples, I went with the Sanibel Lighthouse Shacket, which included chocolate-covered waffle pieces and hot caramel mixed with the Shack's creamy vanilla frozen custard. The Shacket was absolutely delicious and was a great way to end a great day on the beautiful Sanibel Island. Our second day on the islands would have us crossing back over the Sanibel Causeway, across the 12-mile island of Sanibel, and onto Captiva Island, where we had another exciting day planned. But on this day, we decided to do breakfast before the beach, and that would take us to a popular beach resort located just steps from the stunning Captiva shoreline. Located within the historic Tween Waters Inn is where you'll find the Shipyard, one of 3 restaurants located on the resort and the only one open for breakfast. Inside the Shipyard, you'll find a bar, some unique nautical decor, and some pretty impressive Gulf views. We started our breakfast order off with a cappuccino, which was not too strong but was very creamy. We found the breakfast menu to offer a good selection and some pretty unique items, and since we're always up for an adventure, we decided to order them. My order included the banana bread French toast, while Skylar went with the artichoke chorizo benedict. And while this was the first time we'd seen either of these items on a menu, both of them looked and smelled wonderful. After soaking my French toast in some warm sweet syrup, it was time to give it a try. I found it to be crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside, and every bit of what I hoped it would be. Next up was the artichoke chorizo benedict. The eggs were a bit gooey, the chorizo was a bit spicy, and this meal was more than a bit delicious. But since the Shipyard would soon be closing, we'd have to eat quickly before we could make our way to our first beach of the day. As we made our way northwards up this stunning beachfront stretch of Captiva Drive, we couldn't help but marvel at the beauty of this part of the island, and we knew our first beach stop would be every bit as scenic. But from our trip to Captiva 4 months prior, we knew that parking on the island's beaches could be quite challenging and quite expensive, but on this day we came prepared.
We are finally getting out on our hay bikes again. Both of our Mars bikes do fit in the back of our vehicle, but now we've got to put them together. We ended up parking at McCarthy's Marina because we can pay $20 and stay here all day. I think they said we could technically stay here till midnight if we wanted to, but we are not going to last that long.
With parking for the day paid and our bikes fully assembled, we were finally on our way to our first beach of the day. And while Captiva doesn't have all the nice bike paths that you'll find on Sanibel, we still found the quiet island to be a fun and relaxing place to ride our e-bikes. After a quick half-mile ride from our parking spot, we arrived at the Allison Hagerup Beach Park, where parking a vehicle costs $40 for the day, but parking a bike costs you nothing.
We've made it out to the beach here on Captiva Island, and on our drive over here we did notice that there was some improvement at Blind Pass Beach on the north end of Sanibel. It was a lot more cleaned up compared to when we were here 4 months ago. Also, the drive up Captiva was even more gorgeous than we remembered. It's a gorgeous day here and the water is super clear.
While I was beyond content relaxing on the beach for a bit, Skylar was eager to cool down in the water.
Skylar's got pretty far and it's still not very deep. I'm pretty sure we're here at low tide. And once again, the birds clearly outnumber the people.
We've gotten really lucky with our weather the last few days. We haven't gotten rained on hardly at all. The winds have been pretty light, the seas have been pretty calm, and the water's been really clear. So days like this, when the Gulf is pretty still and the waters are pretty calm, you can normally spot manatees from quite a distance away. You just gotta look for a big dark shadow. And I actually just saw something come up. Pretty sure it was a dolphin though. All right, I just saw some dolphins come up pretty close to me, so I'm gonna slowly head that way and see if we can get a good shot of them. There's a bunch of dolphins straight ahead. They seem to be coming my way. I'm just gonna stand here, so it looks like they're probably gonna come right by me.
Yeah, that's probably the closest we've been to dolphins other than when we were on our paddleboards. I cannot believe how many dolphins there are out here today. There's another pod. Oh, look. It's probably super tiny on this screen, but they are just everywhere. Oh, there they are again. And there. This is crazy. There's so many little fish here. I wonder if this is partially why all those dolphins are hanging around. It doesn't look like any of these condos on the beach are back open yet, which also means the likelihood of there being a bunch of people on this beach is very slim.
While there were a few other people on this beach, we could easily count them on both of our hands, and we couldn't have asked for a more relaxing beach day. As we take in a little more of this beautiful beach, we want to know if you visited Sanibel or Captiva Islands. If you have, let us know which island and when you visited in the comments. And if you're enjoying this video and want to make sure you don't miss any of our future Florida travel content, be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn the notifications on.
We did briefly drop by Allison Hegerup Beach on our trip to Captiva 4 months ago, but we're so glad we decided to stop by again because the water was absolutely beautiful and we saw at least 10 dolphins within the first 10 minutes of being here. But now we're gonna go hop back on our bikes and check out a place that just reopened today.
Our bike ride from the beach was quite a bit quicker than our ride to the beach, as by now the temperature was well into the 90s and we were beyond ready for a drink. But thankfully, you don't have to go too far to get anywhere on Captiva, and the spot we were headed was less than a mile away. And after around a 5-minute ride, we arrived at 15183 Captiva Drive, just in time for the grand reopening at the Green Flash restaurant. Having opened on Captiva way back in 1994, Green Flash has been serving waterfront food and drinks for nearly 30 years. And while Ian did cause them to shut down for nearly a year, it's back open and looking great. And while the inside seating offered some really great views, it was the waterfront patio and these mist fans that were calling us.
So Green Flash wasn't even on our list of places to stop by here in Captiva, but we're so glad that it did open up today because it's really been the perfect place to stop by after a hot day on the beach. These mist fans feel amazing. They also serve a proper painkiller with Pusser's Rum, which is one of my favorite drinks, and they even play 80s music on the speakers, so I am in heaven.
Now, we stopped by here primarily for a drink because this place just reopened today, but we could not pass up ordering these baked artichoke hearts. So it's artichoke hearts with butter and Parmesan.
All
it
right.
Smells amazing. We are so happy to have made it here on their grand reopening, and Skylar would have loved to stay here all day, but we still have a place for dinner, a place for dessert, and another beach to take you to still, so we've got to get going.
But before we grabbed dinner, there was one other spot that had just reopened which we decided to pop into, and we sure are glad that we did. Having been closed for just under a year following Hurricane Ian, the Bubble Room Emporium is one of the 3 neighboring Bubble Room properties, along with Boops, which we'll take you to a bit later, and the restaurant and bar, which remains under renovation. The Emporium was nothing like any other gift shop we'd ever visited, and while it does have some of your typical and not so typical gift shop items, it also has many fully functioning antiques that you're unlikely to find anywhere else, including a German grandma fortune teller from 1919, a rare Beatles Yellow Submarine jukebox, a gas-powered tether racer once owned and driven by Shirley Temple, and even a cast iron shooting gallery from the early 1900s, which, in case you were wondering, also still works like a charm. Our dinner spot would only take us a few steps from the Emporium, where at 11506 Andy Rossi Lane, you'll find R.C. Otter's Island Eats. Since we arrived at R.C. Otter's at a pretty odd dining time, we had the inside nearly all to ourselves. And another great perk of dining at 4:30 in the afternoon is that we still had 30 minutes of happy hour.
So I was expecting to be done drinking for the day at Green Flash, but we got to R.C. Otter's and found out it was happy hour and they were doing $5 house wines, so cheers.
We found R.C. Otter's menu to offer a wide variety of options, including this fantastic looking fish sandwich and fries.
So I went with the crispy fish Reuben because we've never seen that on a menu before, and this restaurant has a unique fish batter, so I'm really excited to try it. Yeah.
I can tell it's crispy. I could hear it crunch.
Yeah, it's very crunchy. And the batter is a little different. I'm not quite sure how to describe it, but it's very good.
So I was planning on just getting this salad since we've been eating so much over the last couple days, but they had lobster bisque on the menu and I can never turn down lobster bisque, so I got them both. I'm glad I got it.
R.C. Otter's is open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily and also offers plenty of outdoor seating. Now after 5, we had just around 2 hours until sunset, which thankfully was plenty of time to grab some dessert before the beach. And that took us just across Captiva Drive to Boop's Ice Cream Parlor and Cafe. We had visited Boop's 4 months prior for coffee, but promised we'd return for the cake. And while they had plenty of delicious options to choose from, it was their famous orange crunch cake that we had come back for.
So even though the Bubble Room likely won't open until 2024, right next door at Boop's, you can still get their famous cakes. Now the red velvet is the one that initially made them famous, but this one right here, the Orange Crush, is their most popular. It's got orange buttercream, almonds, and brown sugar, and I can't wait to try it. Oh my gosh, it's really good.
Best orange cake you've ever had?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's probably the only orange cake that I've ever had, but it's really good. People say that they will drive out here just for this cake because it is that good.
We just talked to people that did that.
Yeah, we just did.
With dinner and dessert now behind us, we still had one last stop, back to the beach. And that took us west down the beautiful Andy Rossi Lane, where right next to the famous Mucky Duck restaurant, you'll find Andy Rossi Beach. But since you can't actually park a vehicle here unless you're dining at the Mucky Duck, and since the Mucky Duck is probably the most famous restaurant on Captiva, we're going to show you a little bit of our experience there from our last Captiva visit.
So this is my first time trying Madras, which is pineapple juice, cranberry juice, and vodka. Plus it comes in a pint glass and it's only $6.50. It's strong and very good.
And while the Mucky Duck's drinks are quite good, their views are even better. And if you happen to be hungry, their food is pretty awesome too.
So we went with the Oysters Rockefeller and one of their seafood platters. It has barbecued shrimp, fried scallops, a crab cake, another kind of fish over here, steamed shrimp, roasted potatoes, and more vegetables. We both agreed that everything was really good, but I think our favorite two things had to be the barbecue shrimp and also those fried scallops. So all the parking here is for the restaurant. There is a really nice beach area out there, but if you're here at the restaurant, you cannot go past those white chairs.
But thankfully on this day, we arrived via bike and Andy Rossi Beach was ours to enjoy.
The wind and waves have picked up compared to earlier today, so I don't think we're gonna get in the water here. But this would be a great beach to walk along and look for shells. Look at all the shells down here. Well, never mind. It looks like Skylar decided he's getting in the water.
This is a really great place to cap off this day. There's hardly anyone out at this beach. Even though it's the closest one to the downtown area, the fact that there's no public parking out here really seems to keep the crowds down.
While Sanibel and Captiva both still have a long road to recovery ahead of them, we had an absolutely wonderful time on both islands and would have gladly spent several more days on each of them. So for those of you who are wondering if it's time to come back to visit these islands, our answer is a definite yes. And while you're at it, we'd recommend making a trip down to neighboring Fort Myers Beach as well. And if you'd like to see what that island is like 1 year after Ian, then go ahead and click on this video right now. Thanks for watching!